All right, so get ready because today we're going deep with Neville Goddard. We're going to be talking about his ideas about manifesting desires, specifically by living in the fulfilled desire. We've got a really cool mix of his core teachings, and also we've got some real life stories about how this actually works. So if you've ever wondered about how powerful your mind is and how your mind can actually shape your reality, stick with us, you're in the right place.
You know, one of the things that I think is so interesting about Neville Goddard is that, a lot of people, when they hear about the law of attraction, things like that, they think, oh, it's just positive thinking, right? But Goddard actually gave us a very specific practical method for understanding how it is that our thoughts and feelings really do create our reality.
Okay, I like that. So let's start with, I think, one of the things that Goddard really emphasizes, and that is defining your desire with absolute clarity. We're not talking about vague wishes here, right?
Right. No, not at all. In fact, he used the analogy of, if you were to build a house, you wouldn't just go to a contractor and say, build me a house. You would give them a blueprint, right? So it's the same thing when it comes to manifesting. If you say, I want a better job, well, that's great, but what does that actually look like? So instead of just saying, I want a better job, get really specific about, okay, what is the exact position? What kind of company culture do I want to be a part of? What does my commute look like?
So you mean like even picturing my desk and like the view out of the office window, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. He even suggests, picture the details, picture your desk, picture the view. And I think the idea there is that the more specific you get, the easier it becomes to actually feel like you're already there.
And I think that brings us to what Goddard talks about as assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, which I think is both fascinating but also kind of tricky.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about thinking about what you want, it's feeling it as if it's already true. So how do we even do that?
Well, I think one way to think about it is, if you think about an actor, a really good actor, they don't just memorize their lines, right? They embody the character's emotions, they embody their thoughts. And in the same way, when you were assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, it's like you're stepping into the reality where it's already happened. So you're not just thinking about it, but you're actually feeling the emotions. You're feeling the satisfaction, the gratitude, as if it's happening right now. And what Goddard said is that this is what really aligns your inner world with your desired outcome. And that's what allows manifestation to take place.
It's almost like you're convincing your mind that this is already real. And then because of that, things start to shift to match that.
Yeah, and you're aligning your energy with that reality.
But what about those times? Because I think this happens to all of us. What about those times when doubt creeps in, right? Life throws us curveballs. And it's so easy to start questioning if this is even possible, right? So how do we deal with that?
Right. And that's where I think persistence becomes so important. Goddard had this really powerful quote where he said, an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Yeah, it's powerful, right? And I think what he's saying is that even when you're seeing evidence in the outside world, that seems to contradict your desire. You keep returning to that feeling of it already being fulfilled. You're essentially retraining your mind to see the world through the lens of your desire.
So it's almost like you're saying to the universe, this is my reality and you need to catch up.
Yes, exactly. You are sort of dictating to the universe what you are experiencing, what you want to experience.
And that's where this idea comes in about imagination being Christ in action.
Right.
Which a lot of people, it might sound really mystical or even religious, but it's, I think, more about...
Well, it can sound a little strange.
Yeah.
When you first hear it.
It can. What does he really mean by that?
Right. So what Goddard meant by that is that we all have this incredible creative power within us. And that power is our imagination. And it's not about forcing things to happen, but it's about aligning ourselves with sort of the effortless flow of creation through belief.
It's almost like you're tapping into sort of a universal power.
Right.
By using your imagination. And you're using your imagination to shape your reality. But it's not, like you said, it's not forceful.
Right. And that's where I think a lot of people get tripped up. Because they think, okay, I need to visualize this really hard and I need to make it happen. But it's more about this surrender and allowing.
So it's almost like the more you try to force it, the less effective it is. But the more you can just kind of relax into it
Right.
and trust
Sort of
that it's
time frame.
unfolding,
Yeah.
the better it works.
Okay.
I like that a lot. So, okay, so we've talked about, the importance of being really clear about what we want. We've talked about assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. We've talked about this idea of imagination as this creative force. But I'm curious, like, how do we take this from sort of this cool concept to something we can actually use in our lives?
Yeah.
How do we start living in the fulfilled desire,
Yeah.
like practically?
Right. That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
Well, so Goddard gives some really practical examples. So let's say, for instance, you want to manifest financial abundance.
Okay. Yeah.
So
yeah.
instead of just saying, I want more money, which is fine, but it's not very specific. Imagine actually checking your bank account, right?
Oh.
And seeing that exact amount that would bring you this feeling of relief, of joy, of abundance. Feel the abundance throughout your entire being. Or let's say you were looking for a loving relationship.
Okay.
Visualize yourself laughing with your ideal partner. Feel the warmth of their embrace. So it's
Yeah.
about, really engaging all of your senses in this process of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
I like that. Because it's not just visual,
Right. Yes, feel
You're
it.
using all your senses, so it's much more real.
Exactly.
So, but what about, sometimes I think, like people, if they're really attached to the outcome, like let's say winning the lottery, something that seems almost impossible. How does this work in those kinds of situations?
Yeah, and I think even with something like winning the lottery, it's still about embodying that feeling of what that win would bring. So it's the freedom, the security, the joy. And I think the key here is to focus on the essence of your desire and to trust that the universe will sort of orchestrate the how.
So even if it doesn't happen exactly the way that we're picturing it, the core feeling will still manifest in some way.
That's the idea, yeah.
That's really interesting. I think that's a really helpful way to think about it. Okay, so we've got the clarity piece, the feeling it real, this power of imagination. But I gotta admit, letting go of the how is where I get stuck, because my logical mind wants to control everything. And it's so hard to just surrender and trust. So
I think that's a common struggle.
Yeah.
For a lot of us, our minds want to figure everything out. But, Goddard actually believed that focusing too much on the how can actually block the manifestation.
really?
Yeah, it's like, you've given the universe the blueprint. Now trust it to do its job.
So it's more about saying, universe, this is what I want. I trust you to figure out the details,
Yeah.
rather than trying to micromanage every step of the way.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really helpful. That's a good distinction. Okay, so we're not micromanaging the universe. We're giving it the vision, we're holding the feeling, and then we're trusting that it's all going to work out. I love that. Okay, so before we go too much further, I'm really curious about this technique that Goddard talked about, which is the mental rehearsal before sleep. I know you said this is something that he called the state akin to sleep, and it sounds really fascinating. Why is that such a powerful time to be working with our minds?
Yeah, it's all about tapping into the power of the subconscious mind.
Right.
Right. So, when we're in that drowsy state right before sleep, our minds are much more receptive to suggestion. It's like fertile ground ready for seeds.
I like that analogy a lot.
So it's the perfect time to really vividly imagine your wish as already fulfilled. Feel the emotion, see the details, and let that be the last thing that your mind focuses on before you drift off.
Okay, so it's almost like you're planting those seeds of desire right into your subconscious
Yeah.
as you fall asleep. I love that. Speaking of proof, I'm really curious to hear about some of the real-life examples you found in the source material. Are there any stories that really stand out to you about how this works in practice?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many incredible stories, but one that always stands out to me is the story about Goddard's own brother, Victor. So Victor desperately wanted to own a building,
Oh,
and he would persistently visualize it with their family name prominently displayed.
so he had a very clear picture
Very clear picture.
of what he wanted.
And he was facing financial limitations at the time, but he never wavered in his visualization. He could see his family standing proudly in front of that building.
Wow.
And then 2 years later, through a series of completely unexpected events, they acquired that building.
No way.
It's amazing, right?
So it wasn't like he went out and bought it.
No, it was through this very circuitous route, and it all just kind of fell into place, almost like magic,
That's so cool. That's amazing. But it also brings up a question for me, like what if somebody's desire is something? That seems, that was a tangible thing, right, in the
Yeah.
building. But what if somebody wants to win the lottery? How does this work in those cases?
Why? That's interesting. I think even with something like winning the lottery, it's still about embodying that feeling of what that win would bring.
Yeah.
So, that feeling of freedom, the security, the joy. And I think the key here is to focus on the essence of your desire and to trust that the universe will sort of orchestrate the how.
So even if it doesn't happen exactly the way that we're picturing it in our minds, the core feeling will still manifest.
Right, that's the idea.
That's really interesting. I think that's a really helpful way to think about it. Okay, so we've got the clarity piece, the feeling, this power of imagination. But I gotta admit, letting go of the how is where I get stuck. Because my logical mind wants to control everything, and it's so hard to just surrender and trust. So
Yeah, I think that's a common struggle for a lot of us. Our minds want to figure everything out. But Goddard actually believed that focusing too much on the how can actually block the manifestation.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, you've given the universe the blueprint, now trust it to do its job.
So it's more about saying, universe, this is what I want. I trust you to figure out the details rather than trying to micromanage every step of the way.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really helpful. That's a good distinction. Okay, so we're not micromanaging the universe. We're giving it the vision, we're holding the feeling, and then we're trusting
Right. Yeah.
that it's all going to work out.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, so it's all very inspiring and very, I don't know, makes you really think about things. But what about those times, we've all experienced this, right? What about those times when things don't go as planned? Like we hit a setback or, we experience a disappointment, and it's so easy to kind of fall back into those old patterns of thinking like, oh, this doesn't work, or I'm not good enough, or whatever those limiting beliefs are. So how do we deal with those moments when those kind of doubts start to creep in?
Right. And setbacks are a natural part of the journey. It's like, it's not always going to be a straight line from point A to point B, right?
Yeah, it's more like a winding path.
Exactly. It's more like a winding path. And I think Goddard actually referred to these as the bridge of incidents, which are essentially, seemingly negative events that are actually guiding us towards our goal. Think of it like navigating a maze. You might hit a dead end, but that doesn't mean you're failing. It just means you need to adjust your course.
Okay, so that job rejection might actually be paving the way for an even better opportunity, or that relationship that didn't work out was actually clearing space for the right person to come along.
Exactly. And I think it's all part of this larger unfolding plan that we might not be able to see in the moment. The key is to not lose faith during those challenging times, and instead of seeing them as failures, try to view them as opportunities for growth and redirection.
That's a really powerful perspective shift. Instead of, why is this happening to me? It's more like, why is this happening for me?
Exactly.
Okay. I like that. So those setbacks are actually, it's like a course correction from the universe.
Yeah.
It's nudging us in the right direction.
It's nudging us back on track.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, so this all ties into something else that Goddard talked about a lot, which I find both fascinating and a little daunting. And it's this idea that we are always manifesting, whether we realize it or not. So it's not just when we're sitting down and doing our visualizations, it's like every thought, every belief, every emotion we hold is actually contributing to shaping our reality.
Yeah, it's a powerful concept, right?
It is.
And it means taking radical responsibility for our inner world.
Yeah.
If we're constantly focused on our fears, our anxieties, our doubts, we're unintentionally manifesting more of those experiences into our lives.
So even when we're not consciously trying to manifest something specific, our thoughts and feelings are still shaping our reality.
Oh, yeah?
That's both incredibly empowering and a little scary.
Yeah, it's both, right?
It is.
It's like, wow, I have all this power. But then it's also like, oh my gosh, I'm responsible for all of this.
Exactly. Yeah, if I'm creating my reality, then what have I been creating all this time? But I guess that's why understanding these principles is so important, because it allows us to become conscious creators, right?
Right.
Instead of just being at the mercy of, whatever random thoughts pop into our heads.
Our unconscious thoughts and emotions.
Yeah, right, exactly. So if we want to change our reality, we need to start by changing our inner world.
Precisely.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's about shifting our focus from what we don't want to what we do want.
Exactly.
It's about cultivating a mindset of abundance, of gratitude, of belief. Okay, so this is all incredibly fascinating, but I have to be honest, it can also feel a little overwhelming. Like, where do you even begin? There's so many things that we might want to manifest in our lives. How do we focus our energy and not get lost in this sea of desires?
Yeah, I hear you. It can definitely feel overwhelming at first. But remember, it's a practice. It's a journey. You don't have to do everything at once.
Yeah.
Start small. Choose one desire that feels particularly important to you right now. Make it your primary focus for a specific period of time. Practice your visualizations. Immerse yourself in the feeling of it being real. And notice how your thoughts, your actions, even the events around you start to align with that desire.
Okay, so pick one thing and really commit to living in the state of fulfillment for that desire.
Exactly. It's about giving that desire the space and the energy it needs to fully blossom into reality. And then, as you become more comfortable with the process, you can start to expand your focus to include other desires.
Yeah.
But the key is to start somewhere, to take that first step and to begin consciously shaping your reality.
Okay. It's like we're planting a seed and then we're nurturing it. We're giving it sunlight and water.
Right.
We're being patient, but it's not just about patiently waiting, right? There's also this element of trust.
Trusting that the seed will grow.
Yeah. Trusting that the universe is doing its part. I think that's really important. Okay, so this has been such an insightful conversation. I'm already feeling more empowered and excited about the possibilities that lie ahead. But before we wrap up this section, there's one more question I'd love to explore. We've talked about the power of imagination for manifesting personal desires, even for contributing to a better world. But what about the role of gratitude? How does that fit into this whole process?
That's a great question. And it brings us to a really crucial element of Neville Goddard's teachings, which is that gratitude acts as a powerful amplifier for manifestation. It's about recognizing and appreciating the blessings that are already present in your life, as well as those that are on their way. And the sense of gratitude creates this positive energy flow, making you more receptive to the abundance the universe has to offer.
So it's not just about visualizing and feeling the fulfillment, but also about feeling grateful for it.
Yes.
Even before it shows up in our physical reality.
Exactly. When you feel genuine gratitude for your fulfilled desire, even if it's still in the realm of imagination, you're aligning yourself with that vibration of abundance. You're sending a signal to the universe saying, I'm ready to receive this. And that receptivity makes the manifestation process even more potent.
It's like we're training our minds to focus on the abundance that's already present, even in the midst of the manifestation process.
Exactly.
And that shift in focus can make a world of difference.
It really can. Because when you're in a state of gratitude, you're naturally more receptive to the blessings that are flowing into your life. You're also less likely to get caught up in feelings of lack or scarcity, which can block the manifestation process.
This is all so incredibly powerful and inspiring. It feels like we're really starting to unlock the secrets to creating the lives we truly desire. It feels like we're really starting to unlock the secrets to creating the lives we truly desire. Before we got into the gratitude piece, we were talking about how important it is to shift our focus from what we don't want to what we do want. This reminds me of something else that came up in the source material, Goddard's idea of a shift in identity. I'm curious, what did he mean by that?
It's about moving from a state of hoping for change to a state of being the change you want to see. So you're no longer someone who wishes for something to happen in the future. You're someone who already embodies that change in the present moment.
So instead of saying, I want to be successful, I start living as if I already am successful. That seems like a pretty radical shift in thinking.
It is, but that's the key. You start to think, feel, and act in alignment with that identity. It's no longer about striving for something that's out of reach. It's about recognizing that the power to create your desired reality already exists within you. You just have to step into it.
It's like we're stepping into the role we want to play in the grand drama of our lives. I love that analogy.
Exactly. And the more you embody that role, the more the world around you will reflect that reality back to you.
That's a powerful concept. It makes you realize that manifestation isn't just about achieving specific goals. It's about becoming the person who's capable of achieving those goals.
It's a process of inner transformation that leads to outer manifestation.
Yeah.
And the beauty of Neville Goddard's teachings is that they're so simple, yet so profound.
You don't need any special tools, rituals, or expensive programs. It's all about the power of your own mind and the willingness to believe in its creative potential. That's what makes this so accessible to everyone.
Exactly. It's available to anyone, regardless of their background beliefs or circumstances. All it takes is a commitment to practicing these principles.
As we wrap up this incredible deep dive, I'm so curious to hear your final thoughts. What advice do you have for our listeners who are ready to start living in the fulfilled desire and manifesting the life of their dreams?
I'd say embrace the power of your imagination. Don't underestimate its ability to shape your reality, define your desires, clearly feel the joy of their fulfillment, and persist even when doubts creep in. And most importantly, have fun with it.
It's like we're all artists painting the masterpiece of our lives with the vibrant colors of our imagination.
And remember, as you grow and evolve, your desires may change too. What you once considered important might take on a new meaning as you align more deeply with your true self.
It's a journey of continuous discovery, isn't it? Not just about reaching a destination, but about the transformation that happens along the way.
Absolutely. And Neville Goddard's teachings offer a compass to guide you along that path. So go out there, explore the limitless potential of your mind, and create the life you've always dreamed of.
This deep dive has been truly mind-expanding. And for all of you listening, we have one final question for you to ponder as you embark on your own manifestation journey. What one desire will you start living in the state of fulfillment today? Embrace the power that lies within you and start creating the reality you deserve.